First, let's take a look at some of the general background of the work. As it states, the author is Titus Flavius Josephus. He was born in Jerusalem around 37 of the Common Era. He died around 100 of the Common Era. He comes from a wealthy family and a noble family. His father descended from a line of priests, and his mother could trace her descendancy back from the Hasmonean dynasty. So there's royalty in the family as well. What we do know about his early life is not very much, but we do know that around 64 of the Common Era, he was asked to travel to Rome as a representative of the Sanhedrin to negotiate with the Romans, in particular with the Emperor Nero, for the release of 12 priests who had been arrested by the Roman military. And he was successful in that. And when he returned, however, in 66 of the Common Era, he arrived in Jerusalem just in time for the start of the Jewish revolt against Roman authority, or the Jewish Wars, which ran until 70 CE. Because of his politics and his position, he was given a leadership role in the revolt. He was made the military governor of the Galilean province and did well until around 67 when he was captured by the Romans following the Battle of Jodfat. He was under the control of the commanding general, which was Vespasian at the time. And while under Vespasian's control, he had a prophecy. He believed he had a divine revelation in which he saw the death of Nero and the rise of Vespasian to the emperorship. And when this came to pass, Vespasian was thrilled with him, and as a reward granted him Roman citizenship. And it's upon that point that Josephus, who had been born Joseph ben Matthew, now suddenly became and adopted the Roman name Flavius, and is first known as Flavius Josephus. He returns to Rome he returns to Jerusalem in 69 as an interpreter and a negotiator for the Roman military. And he will serve in that capacity until the end of the war in 70 CE. During his time, he will see many of the major events of the war, including the destruction of Jerusalem, in which his family is annihilated, and the final fall of the temple. Upon the end of the war, he is granted further estates and a large pension, and this will allow him to live comfortably for the rest of his life, pursuing his major goals, which have always been to write. He is known through history for two major works. One is the Jewish Wars, which he wrote in 75, which we're going to look at a little bit today, and the other one was the Antiquities of the Jews. Now, the Antiquities of the Jews, which he published and wrote in 94 CE, takes a look at the history of the Jewish faith. The Jewish Wars takes a look at the history of the Jewish Wars, which had just been completed. This was his first-hand account by an eyewitness of actually what happened in the war. And so he plays his part as a primary source in that particular work. It's also, however, a great work for looking at the lives of Jews in the late Second Temple era, and that's why I'm using it for this particular source today. But its first and primary reason for being, and its primary goal in being written, was to be a source of fact. As I said, there were other books that were coming out at the time that Josephus begins to write his work. He doesn't feel that they're accurate, and so he wants to put forward a complete and accurate version of the Jewish Wars, and so that's where the publication comes in.